Hello developers, let's start developing. It's that time of the year again, and we have a new advent of code. It's 1st of December, which means that 2022 is already underway, and we have our first task of the day. Unfortunately, I did live coding for this and I recorded a nice video when I'm looking at the task for the first time and explaining everything, and I managed to screw up the sound. So yeah, that video will not see the light of day. But we have this video instead, and we can see what the task is and how we can actually solve it. This is a easy task relatively, so first a bit of the story. The saint as reindeer need to eat some kind of a magical star fruit that only grows deep in the jungle, so we're sending a bunch of elves to the jungle, and I guess all of the task will be with us helping the elves navigate the jungle. The first task is a relatively simple task with a somewhat convoluted input. Because tasks in Advent of Code sometimes would have a real clear input and where the problem will be processing it, and sometimes the input will be given in quite a weird way. So most of our energy might even be based on messaging that input so that we can extract the actual data from it. And that kind of reflects the real world. Sometimes we have data that doesn't make any sense input-wise until we do a lot of processing and pre-processing and managing on it, and we are basically transforming that to something that is usable. So in this case, we have a list of all the snacks the individual elves are carrying. They are written on a single piece of paper, and so one elf takes the piece of paper, writes down the calorie values of the snacks it's carrying, and then there's an empty line, then the second elf, then the third elf, and so on and so forth. So we have a mixed input here. This looks like it's only numbers, but it's actually a mix of numbers as strings and empty lines. So we will need to do some kind of parsing of that input so that we can see where the line stops and when the line continues. And in the first part of the puzzle, we just need to find out the elf with most total calories. That is a relatively simple thing to do once we do the parsing. And how we do that? First of all, for the input processing, I did nothing, just read the lines. Yeah, I will be going back and forth between the small input and the real input. So we're gonna create the else, so the data here will be best represented that this is an array of arrays of numbers. So this number array, 1 to 3000, is a single, represents a single elf. So to represent all the elves, we will need an array of those. So we're gonna start with an empty array, and into this array we will add the elves themselves. We will add the first elf manually, and now we will do some kind of a catch-22, I guess. So we know that we have at least one elf. That first elf will be the ones that we added manually, the blue brackets here. Then for every line of the input, if we have an empty line, we are just setting a new elf. We are just opening, so to say, a new array at the end of the array of elves. And if it's not an empty string, that means that's a snack value for the current elf. So we're just adding that to the current elf. Once all is said and done, what we have is an array of arrays, and the format of that array will be basically this thing. That thing something somewhere over there. Or over there, I have no idea how I set up the camera. Uh, that means that we will have an array of one. The first element of our else will be an array of 1 to 3000. The second element will be an array of one item, that's 4,000, and so on and so forth. And now we just need to add them all together. And to do that, we can do a simple thing, but I just remembered that this specific reduce, I managed to create a lot of helpers for arrays when I did unashamedly a lot of prototype evolution. Basically, something like this. I have a group by method, a group reduce method, a sum, a min, a max find, min find, and so on. Skip while, take while, and so on. So basically, what I need to do here, I don't need this at all because I can do this. The maximum element is map all the elves and map each elf to the sum of its element. And then out of that thing takes the max value. And I think I can even do it in a single line with the max find method that is over there that will basically do this for me. And that should be it, I guess. Let's see if it works. The answer should be 24,000. My computer is being shy because it knows it's being recorded. Yeah, here it is, 24,000. And the answer for the second part is correct as well. It's supposed to be 45,000. As for the second part, it's totally easy because we need to find not the value of the top one, but we need to value the sum of the values of the top three. So what I did there, and here I rewrote this code. Of course, I pasted it because I don't want to extract it into a specific method. For this stage of the game, for this, in a real life scenario, this will have to be a method. It doesn't make sense to have this code twice in part one and part two. But in this specific case, when I'm solving advent of code things, I kind of prefer that part two is totally separate from part one and they are not sharing any code or anything so that I can first of all measure them totally separately and second of all mutate them the way I see fit. We said that we don't need this, that we can replace this with a call to my sum method, which does exactly the same thing. And here we will sort the elves, and in general this is very dangerous code because we are not checking anywhere that we have at least 3 elves. So if we run this code with 2 or less elves, we will get undefined as the answer. But in my specific case, I know what the input says, and we are running it with 2 inputs, and both of those inputs have more than 2 elves. So I will intentionally write this bad code. It's not bad code, it's just code that makes assumptions. And those assumptions are documented by me speaking them here. So let's run that code. I think I added the, no, I didn't add the real input. This is the real input. Let's run it again. Because of some reasons that are totally mysterious to me, my computer is getting shy. Because my internet is off. Okay, something is happening, but we will see that we are getting indeed the correct answer for this. So, thank you for watching and see you tomorrow for the next day of Advent of Code 2022.